What's up guys, my name is Polma and welcome to another video of mine. Now today I have something really special for you guys because today we're going to be looking at all of the small plots in your garrison, and we're actually going to be measuring them up side by side and figuring out which ones are the best to build. And bear in mind, we are interested, when I say best, I mean which buildings on average give you the most gold. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. I will try and incorporate some PvE utility and also the overall utility of the buildings, but the main score that I will be given is going to be focused on the average money per work order. I would also like to mention that all of the calculations that I used to figure out how much money that these buildings give per work order, I've put those calculations in the description through a link. But I'm not going to be adding them onto the actual video. I'm just going to be using the results because I want to keep it sort of easily accessible to everyone. And some people just want to see, you know, the results. Okay. The guide, of course, because it's based on averages, also presumes that if you have a work order building, that you're producing work orders all the time, which means that you'll be making 8 work orders a day, which is 8 times 3, 24 hours. That's how many you can make in a day. Of course, if you don't do that, the results are going to be lower. All right. Okay, guys, so the first building we're going to be looking at is the Alchemy Lab. Now, the Alchemy Lab is what I would refer to as a standard small plot building. And by that, I mean it's a building that takes a resource, in this case, frostweed, and it gives you a work order result, in this case alchemical catalysts. And it also has a chance, whenever you create a work order, to give you sorcerer's fire, water, earth, or air. It's always 2 of them, and in this case it's fire and water. In other cases it's going to be 2 different ones. Alright, so the Alchemy Lab sadly does not have a very high profitability. And that is mainly because alchemical catalysts are not bind on pickup, which means that you can buy these on the auction house or sell them. And they are not very valuable. And they gave me an average daily profit of 144 gold and 80 silver. Although it does have a little bit of a bonus because every day, if you have a follower in your Alchemy Lab, you get a stack of random potions. Now the value of this stack varies, of course, depending on which one you get. In terms of PvE utility, I feel that the Alchemy Lab is okay. You can make the potions is essentially what you can make that is rating relevant, because the flasks that you make just from the Alchemy Lab is not the best flask. And of course, if any raider is serious, you want to have the best flask. And for that you need alchemy. So, even though I love alchemy, I can't give it more than 4 out of 10. It has a very low profitability, and it doesn't have that good PvE utility. If you could make the best flasks without having alchemy, it would be a lot better. And the utility is, it's kind of meh. There's not much good to say about the Alchemy Lab, sadly. The Enchanters Study. Now, the Enchanters Study is also a standard small plot building. However, in this case, we're talking about a lot more profitability, and that's what we like to see, right, guys? So, the Enchanters Study, it takes 5 Drenic Dust, and you get a Fractured Temporal Crystal with the chance of getting Sorcerer's Fire or Sorcerer's Water. Pretty irrelevant. The main point is here, what can you actually get for Fractured Temporal Crystals? And it so happens that these sell pretty well. So I calculated a daily amount of money to 824 gold. This is a lot better than the Alchemy Lab. And the good thing about the Enchanter Study, while we're looking at the perks here, is this is a very reliable income. Since it's not BOP and you're not actually spending it to craft something that is perhaps fluctuating in price, and you're just selling the fractured temporal crystals straight on the auction house, means that this is something that's going to be profitable for a long time, unless they buff the drop chance further on the crystals. So therefore, I can gladly recommend the Enchanter Study. From a money perspective, it's a solid pick. And it's also overall very good because being able to disenchant stuff without having enchanting is obviously something that is really, really good. The only downside here is you need enchanting if you want to do the big weapon enchants that really gives you some good profit, but you can't get everything just from a building. Okay, on to the engineering works. Now the engineering works is also a standard small plot building. However, this is the first one that we're looking at that actually has work orders that produce BOP items. In this case, we're talking about 2 true iron ore and 2 blackrock ore. That's going to yield you 1 gear spring parts. Now the gear spring parts, as I said, are BOP, and therefore in my calculations I was making the Shredder-Runs shredders. Now the Shredder-Runs shredders are something that fluctuates a lot in price, okay guys? But I averaged at 940 gold, 30 silver on a daily basis. It's like a daily average, of course. And therefore, even though this is higher than the Enchanters Study, I want to bring a point across here. Since the Shredder-Run shredder is a crafted item from a BOP work order, it's more prone to fluctuating prices, and therefore I imagine that the average daily profit from the engineering works is going to dip below the Enchanters Study within the next few weeks. But right now it's higher. But therefore I've not given it as high a score as the Enchanters Study, just in case you were wondering. However, the good thing about the engineering works, and this is why I can recommend it even still, is because it has a lot of utilitarian stuff. Like, we're talking Goblin Glider kits, Walter, the guy you can spawn, and a lot more stuff. Sadly, you cannot make Blingtron or the upgraded Epic Armor or the Epic Goggles or the Wormhole Centrifuge to get you around Draenor unless you have engineering. But even still, if you're a guy who likes a lot of funky utility stuff, engineering works is not a bad pick because the money you get is still average. It's still average, and right now it's above average. Onto the Gem Boutique. Now the Gem Boutique, just like the engineering works, is a BOP work order system. Now it takes 5 blackrock ores and you get a Talladite crystal. However, I was making Talladite recrystallizers, which is an item I feel is less prone to fluctuation compared to the engineering Shredder-Run shredder. Although I will say that I feel like it is an item that's going to drop in value, but I don't think it's going to drop as much as the Shredder-Run shredder. Even so, I only averaged at 801 gold, 28 silver. However, here's the good thing. In the Gem Boutique, you can get a daily quest. It's a very easy daily quest. I think it's 5 or 6 different quests, but it gives you around 250 gold a day, which brings it up to 1051 gold, 28 silver. This is really good, and the fact that you can get 250 a day, no matter how the market is huge. It's a very nice little small thing, and this is why I've given it a very high score. Also combined with the fact that gil crafting, you can actually make some pretty good gems that still are reasonably well in PvE. But of course, if you want to step it up, you're going to need gil crafting on your character to make the greater gems. And also there are a various amount of vanity items that you are not able to create. Overall though, this is one of the strongest picks that you can take if you're looking for value. And let's be honest, that's what we're looking for, right? The Salvage Yard. Finally, we got to the best building. 10 out of 10. There's no doubt you need the Salvage Yard. No, let's be serious. The Salvage Yard has some very interesting mechanics compared to the other standard buildings. Now, the Salvage Yard, I'm going to presume you know how it works. So I'm just going to talk about what the good and bad things are about it. Now, the good things about the Salvage Yard is the fact that you get follower gear. This is kind of huge when you look at the money side of things, because if you can gear up your followers quicker, they're going to average out a higher chance of completing missions, which, gives you more gold and possibly even gear. You can also get some transmogrification gear if you're interested in these sets, and you can also, if you're really lucky, get BOE 665 epics from these salvage boxes. But don't count on it. It's very, very rare, and also when we're dealing with value, consistency is one of the really good things. That is why I was praising the Enchanters Study so much. I like the fact that something is maybe only average income, but a high consistency. And the Salvage Yard is very inconsistent. And even when it is consistent, it's, you know, it's not even going to be that great. So therefore, I cannot give it a very high score, but I am going to say if you're really into your followers and you want to gear them up quickly, or if you really want the specific transmogrification sets that you can get from here, I think it's the sets that you used if you use the level 90 boost. So you can get that set back, and this is the only way to do it. If you're really into these things, I would say go for the Salvage Yard. You're still going to get some amount of gold, although it's not going to be very consistent. The Scribe's Quarters. Oh boy, this is a really good one as well. The Scribe Quarters is a standard small plot building as well. It works with the BUP system just like the Gem Boutique, and it takes 2 cerulean pigment and you get a war paint. And war paints I used to create decks. Now, when you're looking at value, and this is incorporated in my calculations, I looked at completed decks. So you don't want to just sell the, the one off from a deck like the Ace of Visions or whatever. You want to wait till you have a full deck. That's when you get the most value from the Scribe's Quarters. So you're going to have to be a bit patient if you pick this. But I can promise you, if you do that, it's going to net you a lot of gold. Now, right now, I averaged 2,588 gold making the Visions deck, which is the least selling deck. I picked the least selling one because I was trying to compensate for the fact that the decks are going to drop in value, and I didn't want to create a wrong or a too wrong picture. It's, if you're going to have my honest opinion, it's still 2,588 gold is not what you're going to be averaging throughout the expansion. It's going to drop over time as these decks gets more and more obsolete. But right now, I can tell you, if you're into value and into getting gold efficiently just as much as I am, you're going to have a Scribe's Quarter. Let's be honest. It's amazing. Okay, and it also has other good things. This is why the Scribe's Quarters gets such a high score. It's the one I give the highest score of all of them. It has a very good, very, very good profitability, and it has okay PvE utility in terms of you can make some 630 caster weapons that are only really relevant here in the beginning of the expansion, but they're pretty good as well. And also, you actually have a daily quest with the Scribe's Quarters as well that gives you... it works in a little bit of a strange way. I suggest that you look it up, but I'll try and explain it. You get 2 pieces of paper, and you have to match them together. You can only get 2 a day, but once you match them, they sell for 250 gold. So if you just have a bit of patience, this is going to net you around 250 gold on average a day, just like the Gem Boutique, which is very, very strong. Very strong. So if you're into gold as much as I am, you're going to go for the Scribe's Quarters. It's a very, very solid small plot building, and it's going to continue to be so for the rest of the expansion, I can promise you that. The Storehouse. I'm not a very big fan of the Storehouse, and here is why. The Storehouse, it provides absolutely no income, and what it does is not very good. Now let me go over the good things it does. It does do one thing good. I guess it does 2 things good. The first thing is it increases the total amount of work orders for all buildings. Now this is really good if you're a person who doesn't log on very often. But most people log on at least every day, or maybe even every other day. And if you do so, you're going to be able to refill and replenish your work orders anyways. So you don't really need all of the extra work orders. And the other second good thing it does, I guess it does bring some form of overall utility in the sense that you get access to your guild bank and your own bank and a transmogrification NPC and a void storage NPC. But let's be honest, you can get around the world so quickly in Warlords of Draenor, this is hardly something you need. So therefore, I cannot recommend the Storehouse unless you play on an alt where you don't want to log on very often and you just want to stack up on those work orders and then leave it for a week. The Tailoring Emporium. Now we're getting back to the standard small plot buildings, and the Tailoring Emporium is also using the BOP system. In this case, you have to pay 5 sumptuous fur and you get a hexweave cloth. Now the hexweave cloth I use to make hexweave embroidery. And through the hexweave embroidery, I got a grand total of 1,342 gold, 48 silver, on average a day. Now this is very high. I'm granted this is one of the highest that you can get, although I do feel the hexweave embroidery is something that's going to drop in value as the expansion goes on, so expect this number to be on the declining side. Regardless, the Tailoring Emporium gets a high score because it also, aside with the high profitability, also has very good utility and PvE capabilities. You can craft epic capes and you can make epic armor, and you also get these banners. Although they're not too great, they still help you with doing quests, and if you're just grinding around Draenor, I think you get 30% extra hit points if you're close to it. And there's another one. It does damage every 3 seconds. I think it's 5k or something. And if you want to get the hexweave bags, which are really profitable, by the way, you're going to have to get tailoring. And also if you want to upgrade the epic armor and get vanity items and the mount, you're going to need tailoring. Overall, though, one of the strongest overall picks, I feel, because the money is good, there's good utility for PvE, and there's also a decent amount of overall utility. So definitely a strong pick. And now we get to the last building, the Forge. Now the Forge is also a standard small plot building, and it works on a BOP system just like the previous ones. It takes 5 true iron ore, and you get a true steel ingot. The true steel ingot I used to make true steel grinders. They sold pretty well at the time. I was able to get a total of 1,141 gold, 76 silver a day on average, of course. And this is a very high amount. It's sort of like the Tailoring Emporium, I feel, in the sense that it's a good amount right now, but I can't help but feel that the true steel grinders are gonna drop in value, but I'm not too sure how much. But expect it to be on the declining side again. Now, also, like the Tailoring Emporium, it has a few PvE utility items and also overall utility stuff. Now, one of the good things about the Forge is you can actually get a 4-hour buff that makes you take no durability loss whatsoever. However, I experienced a few bugs with this. I've experienced that it didn't work in dungeons, and I also experienced that it didn't work outside dungeons. So bear that in mind, it might not be working as intended right now. So you can also get a buff that spawns a protector to help you out if you're grinding in Draenor, but it's minor stuff, but it's worth mentioning. In terms of craftability, you can make, of course, the True Steel Grinder and the Reshaper, and you can also make epic armor. Now, if you want to get all the really good upgraded epic armor, you're going to need to have blacksmithing on your character, and also to use Soul of the Forge, you're going to need blacksmithing, but it's hardly something that should be a surprise to you guys. Overall, though, it's a lot like the Tailoring Emporium. It's just a strong pick. It has good utility. It's good for PvE. It has a good amount of profit, which is what really matters, to be honest. Overall, it's one of the better picks. So that sums it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a blast making this video. It was great trying out all the small plot buildings. I'm going to be making one with the medium-sized buildings and also the large-sized buildings. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Have a great time, and I hope you guys are enjoying Warlords of Draenor as much as I am. Take care. Polma out.